Day 14. Wow. We are here on the 14th day of our opening series, and it's getting more and more exciting, more and more interesting because we're covering one of opening after the other. After finishing one d4, we are now on to our journey to see how we are going to meet one e4. And for that, we have opted our main weapon as e4, e5. And it's not really like I love this opening or something. I just feel it's one of the best out there. And it's very difficult to learn it because sometimes there is a lot of theory, sometimes you have to have understanding of the system, and so on. So, before we begin, let me give a shout out to all out there who have joined in today. Suryansh Verma, Kabir Goyal, Amit Sinha, Kushal Chess, Ajinkya Patil, Shivendra TS, Pragyan Mishra, Saugata Bose, Nikunj, Shri Bhide, U Devi, Murugan, Atharva, Rage Thin Crust, Mayur Gondalekar. Okay, so it's time to begin, and today's session is going to be very, very tough because I have some recommendations, but I'm not really sure. And it's mainly like we are discussing this, and if you have any questions, please let me know so that we can understand this better. Okay? So shall we begin? Let's begin this session, or maybe I'll wait for a minute or two to let a few more people join, and then I can begin this show. Yeah, welcome Anushrut Sharma, Geeta Ritesh, Fuzzy Being, Alvin Lee, Nitin Chandra, Bhumik Shah, Kashyap Joshi. Mayur Gondalekar says, I tried your arrange the chessboard challenge and could do it in 30 seconds. That's not bad. That's not bad. I think you should try and push yourselves below 20. That would be nice. Larry Sarkar says, I'm from Bangladesh. Welcome, Larry, from Bangladesh. By the way, tomorrow is going to be a Breyer system of Roy Lopez, and we're going to have Amin Basim, one of the biggest experts on the Breyer, and also the first ever African chess player to cross 2700 on our channel at 2 p.m. So please attend that. Do not miss it. That's going to be great fun. Okay, so time to begin. 1 e4, e5, and now we move to knight f3. Yesterday we saw lines King's Gambit with f4. Yeah, and I did recommend two systems. One is e into f4, knight f3, and here we go knight to e7. While if your opponent plays bishop c4, what is the move that was recommended? Let's see if people were attentive enough and also remembered it. Black to move here. What should black play? Yeah, a lot of people enjoyed Samai's video on me. Although it was funny, I have to write a comment there saying to not blow it out of proportion. I think it was just made. I have certain friends who cannot hear, and for them it's like this is A, this is B, this is C, D, E, F. That's the sign language, and you do Q something like this and all of that. It's kind of stupid. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't. Yes, we looked at knight f6, not d5. Although d5 was one of the main moves, knight f6 is what we looked at. And then knight c3, and we saw the game of Vishy Anand and Morozevich with c6. I hope you remember these stuff. Try to remember these complex openings because they'll be really useful for you. We then looked at d4. ed4, queen d4, where we saw some interesting games with knight f6, knight c3, bishop b4, castles, and rook e8. And also the Danish gambit with c3, where you take it, and then bishop c4, one move was covered, I think, and also knight into c3 was covered. Both the lines, it seems like black is doing okay. We also looked at Vienna, knight c3, knight f6, and to f4 we went d5, and to bishop c4 there was one suggestion like knight e4, and you remember this game which we saw, queen h5. But there was also another move which was recommended, and that was bishop c5 or knight c6. So in general, all these systems which were kind of sidelines after e4, e5 have been covered. Now we are moving towards a slightly main territory. And after knight f3, knight c6, we're looking at d4 now. Okay, this is Scotch. And the other line which we'll look at is knight c3, knight f6, d4. So this is known as the 4 knights, and it's slightly different from the Scotch because we're going to play different lines. Now after knight c6, d4, ed, knight d4. The question is, what should black play here? You know, in general, if you see, like, I'll just try to present to you this in an interesting manner. For example, let's say you have such a pawn structure, okay? And you understand that this is a pawn structure where white is kind of better because he has more space with his e4 pawn as compared to the d6 pawn. So usually when you have a setup like this, okay, I'll just put this up like this, you don't really want to take here as black. You know, once you take here, and let's say white takes back, we reach this position like this one, where it's not really something where black is very comfortable because white has more space, more possibilities. This can become a good square for his knight and so on. So therefore, Scotch is actually very interesting because here after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, you are taking, and now you have this structure. So if black goes something like d6 here, you can already begin to feel that this is slightly better for white. So black should never get into such passive kind of ideas in this opening. He should try to be more active. Okay, he should play actively, and that's the reason why we have different systems that we are going to see here. A big shout out to Nitesh Dubey, who says, even if I can't be live, I always see my favorite e4, e5. Thank you, Nitesh, for your contribution. Okay, so is there some sound or everything's okay? Hopefully everything is fine. If you have any issues, please let me know in the chat. So the main move, and one which I think helps black to equalize quite well, is knight to f6. Okay, because after takes, b into e5. This is the main line. By the way, if he doesn't take and plays knight c3, we transpose to 4 knights, which we shall look. But takes on c6, bc6, e5, queen e7 is played often, and then there is queen e2, knight d5, and this is really complex position. Actually, there are so many different moves that are possible. One of them is c4 here, which is the main move, absolute main move. But people have played knight d2 quite often these days, and also in quite in vogue now and quite popular is the move h4. And lot of games have been played. In fact, c4, bishop a6 is again very complex positions. There is b3, there is knight d2, there is g3, and so to kind of avoid all of this theory and to study so much, I think if you want to truly equalize against the Scotch, knight f6 should be studied. But I want to give you an alternative, and that is to give a check on b4. This is very interesting and kind of not a new idea, but something which I worked on and I want to discuss with all of you. So white has practically just one good option, and that is to play c3. You can go bishop d2, but it already feels like after queen e7, black is just better. Black has attack on the e4 pawn. Also, his b4 bishop is defended. So it's pretty good. Now, he must play c3. Nitesh Dubey says, Scotch and center is my real problem as black. Thank you so much. Well, today it's going to be solved, yeah, hopefully. And now I recommend coming back with the bishop to c5. In this position, white has several moves, but the main move here is bishop e3. Okay, by far the main move is bishop e3. Okay. Bishop c4 lines and all of this we are going to look at tomorrow. Day after, in future classes. So we'll be looking right now at this. By the way, it's possible to also play bishop c5 directly in this position, but I want to provoke c3 so that his knight cannot develop over there and then come back. Okay, so bishop e3. Now we'll look at the alternatives in a bit over here. What is the best move here for black? By the way, if bishop c5 and your opponent takes knight c6, you don't need to take with the d pawn. You can just play b into c6 and seems okay. Seems okay in this position. It's one of the main lines, like bishop d3, d6. And here the difference is that e4 d6 structure which we are discussing, black has this central pawn, so he can at any point go d5. So castles, and here knight f6, knight d2, castle, h3, rook e8, and it seems like fine position. Although I'm beginning to think, like, what if knight f6, opponent goes bishop g5? This seems like an interesting move. But you can always go like h6, bishop h4, and you shouldn't be afraid. Here maybe g5 is just pretty strong. Bishop g3, and now we can gain even more space with h5. And sometimes in these lines you can just not be afraid of that pin. Okay, just a second, making sure there is no sound. Yep. Queen f6 is what is being said, d6. Okay, so let's go back to this position where we were. Bishop c5, bishop e3. Here my suggestion is to play bishop b6. Queen f6 is also possible, but I don't like it so much. In fact, queen is doing nothing much there. A good move can be g3 with the idea of bishop g2 and castles. That can be a good position for white. So we go bishop b6, and now I think the absolute main line in this position is the move knight to f5. Okay, there are other options as well which we shall look. So a lot of options to cover, but knight f5, and here my recommendation is the move g6. And this is not the only move in this position. In fact, I have another suggestion for all of you, which is to take on e3, knight e3, and we will look at a game in this position as well. Okay, but first let's look at this g6. Now if you move the knight away, then after bishop into e3 your pawn structure is ruined. So white must take ab, and now knight e3. And now the move which is pretty good is knight f6. And what should white play now? Okay, it's an important move. White has only one move to keep an advantage in this position. What is that move? Yeah. Say to if he goes back knight d4 again here, doesn't seem to make any sense. You know, you just came, you allowed g6 and you went back. Okay, you weakened this position a bit, but I can just play knight f6 and go for d5 break. Doesn't make much of a problem. So take knight e3 and knight f6. And now let's see what are the possibilities that have been mentioned. F3, Sogata Bosch, yes, you are right. Schieber Spieler F3, very good. Busy being BD3, okay. Nitesh Dubey BD3, Nakul Chaudhary Bishop C4. Well, if you play Bishop C4, I'm wondering if can I not take the pawn? Knight into E4. If you go Queen D5, I can go Knight D6, and I don't see you having compensation. So yeah, there's only one good move here, and that is F3. Because if you go bishop d3, which many of you have suggested, black has a very strong move now. Black to move. What would black play? Nd2 and bd3 both have the same problem. What is that problem? You go to e3 with your knight because the knight controls d5 square, and that is a very important thing. If you go back, then I getting d5 is much more easy. Yeah, Nakul Chaudhary, you are absolutely right. In this position, Anirudh Naganur, Saugata Bose, very good guys, excellent. D5 is the right move, and here after d5 I think black is just better because after take you take, and black is going to castle next. He has very simple and easy development. He's just very much fine here. Slight better position for black. So the right move here is f3. Also knight d2 will be met with d5. So f3, and now I recommend you to castle. Okay. White must play the move c4 here. Okay. it's the best move, and this is how you should continue. And now I want to suggest to you something really active and dangerous. Maybe it's not the best as well, but the complications are so immense that it's worth trying out. This is what I would recommend you to at least have a look at, analyze it, because the positions arising are very, very interesting. So black to move, what is a way to play very aggressively, actively, and a gambit in this position? Gambit like move. Yes, dark squares are slightly weak here, but you see there's no dark squared bishop, and you have lead in development. Like, you have developed 2 knights, you have castled, so you must play actively. Say to your question has been answered, and please don't comment again and again. If you take knight into e4 here, then fe4, queen h4, I understand your point, but I think after king d2, black is doing okay in this position. Yeah, Schieber-Spieler has given the right answer. Very good, Schieber-Spieler. MX Stowe, Nihilish, all of you, very good. Altaf Mankad, also very good. D5 is what I recommend you. And I don't know, I mean, I'm doing this with a heavy heart, because I did analyze this for many minutes and hours, but I've come to the conclusion that perhaps it's not very sound. Yet I want to share the analysis with you so that you can think of trying it out against some opponent you think may not be well prepared. Okay. Yeah, if you play d6, by the way, in this position, it's a completely playable move, but after knight c3, bishop e2, castles, and putting a knight on d5, I get a feeling that white will have a risk-free advantage. White will just keep on milking this position, and black will be passive. Of course, black is not lost or anything, so he can keep playing. That's why I recommend this move d5 to take the bull by the horns. Okay. Now, if knight into d5, let's look at this move. This looks like a natural move. Then you go knight to e5. This is a very interesting game of two players, Fernandez Garcia versus Camacho Colados. This has been played once. So let's have a look at this game, how it went. Knight e5, knight bc3. Knight bc3 was played. Now you go c6, good move. Knight into f6, queen into f6. Okay, and this is already better for black. The reason being that you are playing rook d8 next, bishop e6, putting pressure on c4 point. Also d4 is weak. Later the knight can somehow reach this square. Okay, so this is really good compensation and actually better position. In the game, knight e3 was played. Now just queen e7, and you sacrifice the pawn for dark square control. Okay, and to get the open d file, bishop e2, rook d8, queen c2, knight h5, looking to come on another f4, knight on f4, castles, and now queen to c5. And you can imagine that this is a very difficult position, like king f2, then you can break with f5, and it's just black is clearly dominating the game. The game actually, instead of rook d8 here, continued knight h5, castles, queen c5, queen c1, knight f4, and you can see that how black is having excellent compensation here, recovers his pawn and wins another pawn. and then went on to win the game. This happened actually between a 24-23 player with white and 24-4-9 player with black in 2015. So we come to the conclusion that knight into d5 may not be the best idea. All you must do is you must just move your knight to e5, play c6, and then queen e7, rook d8, play on the dark squares. Okay, that's the main move here. In that position, Anirudh Naganur, the knight on e3 was pinned by the queen, so f5 was quite easy to play. Okay, so knight into d5 is definitely okay. It's not the great move. E into d5 is a mistake because of rook e8. Now the knight is hanging, queen d2, and knight b4. And you will see that there are all sorts of threats in the position like rook e3, queen e3, and knight c2 could be a possibility. Directly knight c2 can be possible. If white plays, say, king f2, then you can go queen d6, defending the knight and also threatening queen c5 with more pressure. So a lot of good things here for black. If queen into b4, then rook e3, king f2, rook e8. And once again, I like black's position. He might be pawned down, but he has such good play on the dark squares. You know, all dark squares kind of are weak in the position. So cd5 is the main move in this position. And after this, the question remains, how should black react? What is the way in which black can get the initiative here? So suggestions, please let me know in the comments. Black to move. Yeah, this is how, if you are white, then this is the best way to continue, I think. What should black do here? Yeah, Schieber-Spieler, you are right, Nihilesh as well. It's not like the best move or something. It's the only way to continue. After giving up a pawn, you can't just play passively with the move like knight e5, because then just bishop e2 and then castles and queen d4 and white is doing fine. You need to be active, and that's the reason why you play the move knight takes e4. And now already lot of options for your opponent. First of all, he can take on a e4, which is the main move, but he can also take on c6. And when he takes on c6, that's a mistake, because queen h4 check, g3 is forced. If king e2, then already big trouble after queen f2 check. So g3, knight into g3, hg3, queen h1. You can also consider queen g3, king e2, and now b into c6 with excellent compensation. You are 2 pieces down, but you have a bishop coming out on a6, rooks ready to take the central files. I think white's defensive task is not at all easy here. Not at all easy. So g3 takes, queen h1 is also okay, king f2, b into c6, and once again it's a complicated position which could go either way. Okay, so taking on e4 makes the most sense, and now I give a check. And now if g3, then queen into e4, and black is better, because not just e3 is hanging but also h1. And if king e2 is one move, but I think after queen into e4, it seems like king on e2 is not very well placed. You have threats like bishop g4, also knight d2 here. This is a complex line after queen f4. Very interesting move. I think this is the move you should look at here. If d into c6, rook e8, queen b3 only move, and now activating the rook from the side, rook a4. Also rook a5 is very interesting move, trying to get it doubled on in the center. So rook a4, and I have a feeling that here black is having excellent compensation. Like, although he's 2 pieces down, look at the king and how the pieces are all undeveloped. So king d2 is the right move, and now you take on e4. Now taking on c6 is not possible. It's rook d8 mate, like you can lose a queen. So bd3, and now I would recommend queen d4. Okay, and here it's once again I'm threatening b2 pawn. So he plays the move queen to b3. That's the best move. If knight c3, then after rook e8, rook e1, knight b4, attacking d3, queen b1 only move, bishop f5 good move. If knight f5, then I go gf5, and you will see that my next threat is to take on e1 followed by d3. And in general here black has excellent play. In fact, white is very much hard pressed to defend this. So queen b3 is the main move here, defending d3, rook e8, now rook e1, knight to e5. If you go knight b4 here, then queen c3 is very good move. And here black is lost. So the value of each move is very high. Knight e5, knight to a3, and now this is the position where I want you to take some time and think. Basically try to understand what's happening. Usually in such complex position it pays to have some time. Like there are threats like knight into d3, queen b2. There are threats like activating the rook like this. So what's happening here? Let me know. What do you feel? Does black have enough compensation for the piece or not really? What do you think here? Does black have enough compensation or not really? What's happening? Yeah, bishop f5, Raman, but bishop f5, just knight f5 now. Yeah, I like this move, bishop d7 in this position. Bishop f5 seems like knight f5 and not enough. Bishop d7. I have a feeling that there is some compensation, but it's not so easy for both sides to play. Both sides will find it difficult to continue because it's such an unconventional position. The king is in the center of the board. Yeah. Suryan Sharma is right. Black has enough compensation, but still position can go either way. I want you to try out these positions against some friends and try to play it out and see if it's really worth playing it with black, because The computer gives white an advantage, but I still feel that practically black should have some possibilities. Yeah, bishop h3 is interesting. Although here he can just ignore this bishop, so that's the point. But interesting. So rook e5, knight a5, knight a3. You take on d3 is one option, but let's say bishop d7, knight c2, and now queen to f4, rook f1, and queen h2, and you get another pawn. You are 2 pawns now for a piece, and I feel like definitely some compensation. Okay. So here knight into e4, fe4, queen h4, and I'm going to put in a database with all the games in this position. Black has won some, white has won some, so it's good to study it. Okay. Now another line which I feel is worth looking into is bishop e3, knight e3 here, and then the next move is d6. If you don't like this system where you have to play d5 and sacrifice a pawn, then perhaps this is something that you can play. There is a very famous game, Kramnik versus Nepomniachtchi, which went c4, ng7, nc3, castles, bishop e2, and f5. I think this is another way in which black can play. I don't know if what is the evaluation, like take, bishop f5, but I have a feeling that black is doing okay here. You know, if you, in case you feel that line was too sharp, then this is another possibility. Okay. Yeah, c4, ng7 is good move. What else? Going back here, in this position, if your opponent plays the move bishop c4, then you can play knight f6, knight c6, bc6, e5, that looks natural, queen e7, queen e2, and now knight d5. And I think black is again completely fine. His pieces are well developed, knight is in the center, so that's good. Okay, let's just have a look at a chat. Usually when I look at chat, it's most like some things are spoken which are absolutely not related to the class. Yeah, like whatever we are learning, it's something different, but sometimes it's interesting. Nigel Perez says, love from Israel. Thank you, Nigel. Ninat Tiwari says, I have been following since 2 years and I have been on and off from chess, but in this lockdown, because of your classes, I'm back. I'm 1300 now. Love you and thank you. Wonderful, Ninad. I'm glad. Suryansh Verma says, after bishop c5, c3, queen f6, we gain a move. So why play bishop b4? No, in general, there are other lines after bishop c5, like bishop c5. There is also knight takes on c6. So you have to be prepared, which is a main line. And after bishop e3, I mean, I am not so keen on playing queen f6, c3. You are developing with the tempo, but your queen is also misplaced on f6. I mean, it's not like it's the best placed queen. So that's the reason why I want to play first a check, provoke c3, and go to bishop c5, bishop e3, and now not play queen f6, but bishop b6, and continue this way. Neha Bhalgat says, my son is 8 years old and fan of you. Fantastic. But okay, 8-year-old should not be fans of anyone. Actually, they just improve and they become better. So I'm sure he's going to do really well. Okay, we'll come to the thumbnail story later. First, bishop c5, bishop e3, bishop b6, and now we were looking at some other lines here. Let's look at queen g4. Here there is a well-known game that I would like you to check, which is Cordery. I think he's from South Africa, Daniel Cordery. And black was Levon Aronian. He played knight f6, gave up a pawn, queen h6, and then broke in the center with d5, which led to an interesting game, and black came out on top after bishop b5, bd7, and a lot of moves like rook g6 came in, and black is better. Black is equal, but he has great compensation for the pawn. So knight f6, this queen g4 move, you check the game Cordery Aronian. We just saw bishop c4, knight f6, take, bishop takes, ab, e5, and now I think you can play knight d5. If bishop d5, cd5, queen d5, then after rook a5, this is great compensation. Black is just doing completely fine. So not knight c6, not bishop c4. What are the other options? If you go g3, then it's too slow. I'm going knight f6, bg2, castles, and now d6 seems good. Although I was thinking if here, can we play directly d5? I think that just seems very natural. If you get a chance to play d5, why not? And this gives black equal position. So bishop b6, knight f5 is the main move. We saw g3 to meet with d5. And a4, I think knight f6, a5, knight a5, e5, knight d5, and somehow even here black is just okay. I mean, black has no real issues. a5, knight a5, e5, knight d5, queen g4, and maybe not knight e3, but just king f8, and black should be around equal here. I'm not 100% sure, but I think king f8 is okay. So then we come to knight f5, which was the main move, and now two ideas I have recommended to you, which is to take and play d6 like Kramnik against Nepo against Kramnik, knight e7, castle, and f5, and the other one is to play knight f6 instead of d6, f3, castles, c4, and then the pawn sack with d5. Yeah, these are the two options that sorry, not to take g6 here, so that we gain a move. Yeah, that's useful sometimes. Knight f6, f3, and now castles c4 and d5. Okay, yeah, let's look at some doubts, because this line is very, very complex. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Any questions related to this, please let me know. I want to take it a bit slow, like after knight c6, d4, but please ask questions related to this line, not otherwise. Kushagra Singh, please have a look at a video that we have published, how to get FIDE rating, and that will help you. What is the point of d5? Well, in general, d5 is the move that you want to play to get an equal position in the center. White has more space because of his e4 pawn, and in order to nullify it, you go d5. So that's the point. Okay, so no real questions related to this line. There are many other questions, but we can look at them later. So check c3, bishop c5, and now I was looking at knight f5 straight, but then you go g6, knight e3, knight f6, bishop d3, and here castles, rook e8. And I think black is doing really well. He could play d5 at the right moment, and there is just nothing that white can do. It's equal, maybe slightly better for black. So, not knight f5. What if bishop c4, then knight f6, knight into c6, b into c6, e5. We looked at this, queen e7, queen e2, knight d5. And then we get a playable position here also. So bishop b4 check. c3, I think bishop c5 is okay. Bishop e3 is the main move. And now I go bishop b6. Now let's look at some options here. Queen g4 we already mentioned. This is Corderi-Aronian. What if after bishop b6, bishop c4, then after knight f6, knight into c6, b into c6. Once again, we have a position which is around even. e5 is met with knight e4. And black is doing okay here. Bishop b6, ab6, e5, knight d5 is also okay. You know, you give up a pawn, but you have a lot of active play. So bishop e3, bishop b6, and now another move. I think we covered everything here. Knight f5 is the main move. You go g6. If you want to play solid, you take and play d6 like Kramnik, Nepomniachtchi, play knight e7, castle f5. If you want to play risky chess, then you play g6. Bishop b6 takes, knight e3, knight f6, f3, castles, c4, and now d5. This is exactly what I am suggesting as an interesting alternative for active play. The best move is cd. If knight d5, we already saw knight moves, play c6, queen e7, has great play on the dark squares. If cd5 here, then the best move is knight e4, fe4, queen h4, and black is doing, I mean, it's an interesting position. I think the best defense for white is bishop d3, queen d4, queen b3, rook e8, rook e1, and I think here knight e5, yeah. And in this position, I would say that white has, according to computers, better position, but I feel that if you can just analyze this a bit, you may find some very big practical resources for black. After Amit Sinha, if after g6, knight g7, and also Nandan's question is the same, why not knight g7 check? Well, just think about it, because after you give, say, knight g7 check here, king f8, how is this knight going to be protected? It's just lost on g7. That's the reason why you don't play knight g7 check. So this kind of covers our Scotch. I'm not 100% satisfied with the recommendation, because it is not like objectively the best, but I'm happy about giving you couple of options. So my main suggestion to you is to play knight f6 and try and study these complex lines after knight c6, bc6, e5. Should give black equality in this every line. But we go check and c3, provoke it, and then come back. And this is also a very interesting line. Okay? Now we go back and try to look at e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, and d4. Or it also comes through some other move order, which is d4, ed4, knight d4. If knight f6 here, but we are going bishop b4. But if we go knight f6, knight c3, then this position can arrive. It won't be a problem for us through this move order, because we have bishop b4, c3, bishop c5. But it could happen that your opponent plays knight c3 and you play knight f6 and he goes for the move d4. And this one, after takes, leads to an interesting position. What do you think is black's best move here? Black to move. Black to move here. Today being Sunday afternoon, a lot of people are taking rest and relaxing. So of course we have less people who are attending the stream, but they see it later on. And also I'm not unhappy that there are less people. It's like I prefer that those who are seeing this, they take the full advantage of it and learn from it. Yes, bishop b4 is the correct move here. Well done. The first person to say was Shibar Spieler, Jayant Debarman, Suryansh Verma, Lalit Bharadia, Yash Bharadia. So bishop b4 takes is the main move. bd3 is next. Castles, or you can start with d5 also. d5 takes, and we come to a very important position in this entire system. What do you think? Who is better here? White. It's white to move, but who do you think is better? What's going on? Let's try to understand. This is a very common position in the opening. Yeah, bishop c5 is also possible in this system. I mean, it's not like a completely bad move, but I like bishop b4. It's forcing. It attacks e4. White has to take on c6, bc6, bd3. Then you go d5, edcd, and you get this position. The position is equal. Yeah, it's around equal. But if you see, black has 3 pawn islands. White has 2. So that's definite pawn weaknesses for black. But at the same time, he has the center. So he has more space in the center. That is very useful for black. I wouldn't say black is slightly better. I wouldn't even say white is slightly better. I think equal is the right assessment. Two main moves here. One is bishop g5 in this position. And the other one is h3, stopping bishop g4 ideas for black. So let's have a look at one game of Magnus Carlsen, so that you get an idea of how to play these openings. It was played very recently. I think in January. No, it was not played recently. It was played in 2014 at Zurich. So let me just add it here. Here, instead of h3, Nakamura played bishop g5 in this position. And now you go c6. So the main point is now bishop f6, queen f6, knight into d5 is not hanging. So c6, knight a4 was played by Naka, and now bd6. And you will see that this move is just so cool. You don't go to e7 to break this pin. Now often I know all of you are a little bit concerned whenever your opponent pins your knight. But here it's not a problem, because you will see that black has a lot of free play. This is an open file, so he can put his rook here at any given point. The other rook can come from here. Bishop can develop. So actually black has very, very free play in the position. c3, rook e8, bishop h4, and now Carlsen played bishop g4, but c5 was also very strong, and black is definitely slightly better. Bishop g4, f3, bishop h5, and now the bishops are exchanged. Queen c7, and you will see that how black is okay to give up his knight for and even take doubled pawns. That is okay for him. You know, this position. It's okay because he will get the bishop, and also the dark squares around white's king would be weak. Queen c7 and then g4, bishop d3, queen d3, knight d7, and later on Magnus went on to win. He didn't exchange the rooks. He had a good position. He played c5, c4, and that was a good move, a good game. Okay. Now let's have a look at some other games here, because this is a position which you can learn through a lot of games. Yeah, like if you have seen a lot of games. Let me show you the game between two Indian players. One is N. Srinath, and the black player is Tanya Sachdev. So let's see. So in the game, I think h3 was played here as well. And Tanya played c6. Sorry, Tanya played h6. I don't think it's necessary, but okay. Here, queen f3, c6, bishop f4, bishop d6, rook fe1, rook b8. So generally, the bishop comes back to d6 even if the bishop is on g5. It comes back to d6. You put your rook on b8 and you put pressure here. b3, bishop e6, knight e2, c5, rook a d1, rook e8, takes, knight f4, queen b6, and now rook e3, d4, bd7. Black is doing completely fine, and this was the very famous game. I think I just saved it here. Yu Ruyong versus Parley Grass. It was an interesting game, but we were looking at the game between. The game which I wanted to show you was Srinath versus Tanya Sachdev, and in that game, let's go back here. It's the same thing. Queen f3, rook e8, bishop f4, went back bd6. Here came knight e2. I don't know. Now this is Muzichuk game. Okay, 1 second. Knight e2. c5, rook a d1, rook e8, bishop into d6. I'm just loading some wrong games. Let me just. Yeah, this game went queen f3, rook e8, bishop f4, pd6, and now knight e2, bishop f4, knight f4, rook b8. That's good move. You should always take care, something like queen g3 and take this rook shouldn't happen. b3, queen d6, rook d8, bishop d7, rook d1, bishop d7, c4, d4, and now c5. And once again, black is clearly fine. Here a good move would have been just a5, putting the pressure on the queen side, and black is better. There's one interesting game which was Morozevich Caruana, which I want to show you. Could be useful. These games are so similar looking in nature that it's easy to get confused. Just a second, let me save the analysis. Yeah, here. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, takes, knight d4, bishop b4. And Morozevich liked to play this a lot with white. He thought it was easy to play, also leads to interesting positions. h3, c6, queen f3, and now what is the move that you would play? I just want you to build an understanding of this position. Black to move. Black to move in this position. How do you continue here after queen f3? Yeah, bd6 or rook e8, very good. Schieber Spieler, you are absolutely right. Generally, the moves are rook e8, bishop d6, rook b8. But sometimes you are afraid of this move, bishop g5, and you play h6, but that's not good. You shouldn't be afraid of that pin. Just play rook e8. When he plays bishop g5, you can see even Caruana here just played h6, and he was like, yeah, do you want to exchange the queens? Let's do it. Like take, pawn takes. And usually here, white tries to do something like knight here to f5, but it's really not a big deal. I mean, black has so many ways in which he can generate counterplay, like rook b8, b3, maybe just bishop f5 is one possibility that we can look at, takes an e2, or you can also instead of bishop f5 just play bishop e6, knight g3 and c5 with the idea of playing c4. Maybe if knight f5, then you can play c4, and you can't take the pawn because of king g7, king f5 and king g6 and you must play knight h4, but after king h5 it's just lost position for white. Yeah, h6 he didn't take, he took in the game and played knight e2. Now came bd6, not rook b8 as we looked at. Rook d1, bishop e6, knight g3, rook b8, knight h5, typical Morozevich playing actively, bishop e5, b3, king f8, and after f4 came bishop b2, and now you can't easily win that bishop, so rook f3, c5, bishop h7, rook b6, c3, bishop c8, rook g3, and d4. Well, in the game white was better, but black went on to win. But I would like to point out that just being in this structure is not so bad. Like these doubled isolated pawns is not so bad for black. Okay. I want to show you another game of Vishy Anand to make your understanding of this opening better. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, d4, takes, bishop b4, knight c6, bc6, bd3, d5, ed-cd, castles, and we reach the same position. Opponent went bishop g5. What's the best move here for black? Black to move. What should black play here? Why bishop b2, Amit? Because he wanted to stay on the same diagonal defending f6, so he put the bishop there. Also, he could have gone bishop c3, but bishop b2, rook b1, bishop c3 is a better idea. You know, like misplace the rook in that position. Yeah, c6 is absolutely right. You just control, okay? Just control the center. Good move. So, knight f4. And now Anand played h6, bishop h4, and he played bd6. You know, bishop is well placed here. Although it may seem on e7 it breaks the pin, but on d6 it's well placed. Rook e1. And now rook b8. Again, a natural move. Good move. By the way, instead of bd6, you can also go rook e8 here, stopping rook e1 at some point. bd6, rook e1, rook b8, b3. And now Anand played bishop e6, queen f3. And find a creative move here for black. How should black continue? Black to move. Sometimes you look at the position and you see, oh, this is a pin and it's irritating and all, but just be calm. Yeah, yes, you're right. Shieber Spieler, absolutely right. Abhijit Bhattacharya, in which position do you want to play? d4? Yes, Yash Bharadia, you are right. Avyaya Bhatt, you are absolutely right. The right move is rook to b4, attacking the bishop on h4. And this gives black very good position. He must exchange his bishops by bg3, and then well, Vishy went on to win pretty easily. bd7, knight had to move, and then a2 was lost, and so was the game. So I think My point is that you will get this position, and now whatever white plays, like queen f3, bg5, all these moves, let's put the theory on a side. c6, rook e8, rook b8, bishop d6. These are all the right moves to continue. And if you look at some more games in this opening, your understanding will improve. My suggestion generally is that this line is playable for both sides, but it's not dangerous for either of them. If black has nothing to fear, nor does white can just play naturally relaxed in this position. Okay. So I think that just about covers both the systems, 4 knights and also Scotch. Let's just revise once Scotch so that everything is there in your mind. d4 here. Let me get the file first. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, takes, and now I'm recommending check, c3, bishop c5. Opponent will mostly play bishop e3. You can play bishop b6 because the threat is to take the knight and to win the bishop here. So you save your bishop. He plays knight f5. Now you can either take and play like Kramnik after d6 and knight e7 and play for f5. That is one way to play. And the other way to play is g6, bishop b6, a b6, knight here. And now I want you to play knight to f6, f3, and to play castles, c4 and d5. And this is where you should analyze some few games. I will be putting them up and try to analyze them and try to come to a conclusion as to whether you would like to play this gambit line or not. It's not so bad, nor is it great, but it's just a playable line. Okay guys, so that was just about what I wanted to explain. I know it was a very theoretical session. There was a lot of things that were very kind of complex to understand, but I think you get an idea, you get what to play, and this is my main aim, that to give you some ideas, put you on the right path of development, and that will help you to while you move further ahead. Yeah, so please do so. Please study this well. Tomorrow try to be available at 2 p.m. and come here for Amin Basim's session. That would be great fun. Yes, Nitin Chandra, without dark squared bishop, you can see even here, there is no one to attack you. Who will attack these squares? If you are careful enough, I don't think you will be in trouble. Okay, so that was just about it. And yeah, tomorrow will be Breyer. Then I will go to Breyer. We'll finish Rui Lopez and Breyer. Then we can go to Italian and try to look over there for some things. Yeah, thumbnail story. Let's try to understand. So I went to World Rapid and Blitz, and Magnus Carlsen won both the sections, World Rapid and World Blitz. So he first won the World Rapid tournament, and you see we got to interview him with everyone together. So everyone interviewed him, and that was the picture there. I was shooting, and then everyone was asking questions. I also asked him several questions, and then that interview I uploaded. Somehow I felt that the other people asking the questions didn't really understand chess so well, and their questions were pretty bad, and I had to record them and then I would publish them. I wanted to have my own interview with Magnus, where I could ask questions. So when he won the World Blitz, I did not join in asking him questions there after he won. I felt like he had won the Rapid and Blitz both, so he would be interested in giving an interview for ChessBase India. Turns out that Magnus didn't, have time to give the interview. He said, I will see if I can do it later. And then he had the prize ceremony and so many things that were happening. And then I was like, oh, I didn't even take the normal interview. I didn't ask him questions there. And now he's not ready to give an interview. So somehow when you travel to Moscow and you cover this big event and the person who's won both the tournaments, if you can't interview him, you feel like, incomplete coverage. So I tried to wait outside where he has a special room in almost all the tournaments they have provided him. And then I hope that he would give an interview, but Henrik, his father, came out and said, sorry, we cannot give the interview this time. Magnus would not, and I was very upset, and I sat there sad. But in some time, Amruta came and said to me, if we are not getting an interview, at least I want a selfie with Magnus, or we both should take a selfie. He's won both the events. So I said, okay, let's go and ask him for a selfie. It's easier for him than an interview. An interview would last 5 minutes, but a selfie would last only couple of minutes. Couple of seconds. So that way, I went there and we waited outside his room. And then his father said, oh, you're still here, when he saw that. And then he said, okay, Magnus said that he will be interested in giving an interview, but we should do the interview while you are walking out. And I thanked Amruta a lot. Because of her selfie, I managed to get the interview. And now while we are going closing the session, I would like to show you this interview, because to just show you how it happened. So this is the interview. After he won, this is Magnus winning the tournament, World Blitz. Magnus, when you made the last move, there was a feeling of delight as well as relief. We have not seen you express like this. You just raised your hand. How was the? So you can see here in the same elevator. So it's like he's going out, like last minutes of his in that building. It's an elevator and the interview is being done here. It was very interesting. You can see Henrik Carlsen here, his father.
So it was a nice change of pace. Usually I only express negative emotions during the game. So I really like.
There are two cameras. One was Amruta shooting and me, so Amruta could take the video of me shooting as well.
Like that. Certainly it was a huge relief after such a tough few days, and especially today, every time it looked like I was pulling ahead, I came back to her pretty quickly. So kudos to Ricardo for making it such a great run.
Yeah, I mean, he played really well. Tell us a bit about this game with Ali Reza. It was really high pressure, and then there was all these things that followed after he made a appeal and stuff like that.
So first of all, I was clearly worse from the opening, but at the same time, that was nothing new since.
I went and took a selfie also with Magnus, and he gave her a selfie. That was nice.
The opening is a bit dubious. Then I think he missed a couple of things. I was safely better. But then I just blew everything in a few moves, and I got really upset at myself, and which also resulted in a bit of an emotional reaction there.
Magnus usually doesn't get so upset, but here he got upset.
Then I think he was winning, but it was hard to say. I mean, I was not thinking at all during the rest of the game. I was just banging out moves. I think early on in the opposite color bishop ending, I could have drawn fairly easily. Then I put bishop on e7, which was incredibly stupid, which meant that I couldn't go back to f6 with the king and prevent his penetration. I think
it was so cold out there. It was like maybe -2 or something, and it was snowing all around. There was wind, and I was doing this interview. I think
after
it
that,
was
it
something like 12 in the night.
was definitely winning, but he clearly showed some nerves, and yeah, unfortunately for him, he lost on time. So for me, obviously, a draw would have been great given everything that had happened. But the rules are the rules.
Grishchuk actually helped you, yes, by telling you at that point that.
No, I was pretty sure that it was a win, and I think it's as simple as if the rules say that it's a win, then it's a win, and it would be very unethical towards the others to try and arrange a draw. Like it feels like it should be a good compromise, but I think it's simply unethical towards the others. And then he appealed, which I can understand. He's young, he's emotional, and he was upset. But I don't think he had any chance of succeeding. But I don't think he should be judged too harshly on that either. It happens in the heat of the moment, and he should also be congratulated on a wonderful performance in the rapid, gaining the silver medal and hanging in the blitz almost to Livea.
And the last question is, you have won all the 3 titles. Now you are classical, rapid and blitz champion. How does it feel, and are you still motivated? What's your aim next?
I want to win my next tournament, which is, if I can say, which is starting pretty soon. So that's my next motivation.
Thank you so much, Magnus. So this interview ended, and I was so happy at that point. We put in this final ceremony where he won the medal and all of that in the video. But I think the moral that I want to take for you to take away from this thumbnail is that sometimes it feels like you cannot achieve something which you really want to, but you shouldn't give up. Sometimes someone will help you. Like in my case, it was Amruta who said, let's go and take a selfie, and that selfie converted into an interview. And it was the highlight of our trip, because getting an interview with Magnus where you are walking in the snow and in this, it was just a very, very nice feeling. So that's what I wanted to share at the end with all of you, and that's the thumbnail of this video. So, well, I hope that these thumbnails remain, because maybe I might change them at some point, make them a little better. But well, for all those watching right now, you get the story of why I wanted to say that. Okay, few questions. You inspired me to start my chess channel. Says free chess videos for all. Very good, free chess videos. That's very nice. All the best for your chess channel. Pankaj Chauhan says, Sagar, I have a question. How to maintain consistency? Well, in general, if you are doing something that you believe in and you think that you're making a difference, you enjoy doing it, I don't think it's too difficult to maintain consistency. It's not like if you don't enjoy doing something, then everything is a struggle. But if you enjoy it, I think it's not so difficult. And yes, I truly believe consistency is the key. If you can't consistently do something, no matter how talented you are, it's not easy to succeed. Yeah. Dage Thin Crust says, God comes to you in various forms. Possibly. Just that I don't believe in God as such, but yeah. Well, for those who believe in him, then God comes in various forms. Sogata Bose says it's not over till it's over, like you, and also for Magnus winning on time in a likely lost position. Exactly. Like Magnus got that half point with Ali Reza, which made him the champion, and for me, it was like I was there right till the end. We didn't leave the hall. We were there, and we got the interview. Okay, guys. So let's meet tomorrow. And as a reminder, tomorrow is Amin Basim who will be joining us. So please do make it, and we'll have a lot of fun with him. Take care, bye bye, and see you. And if you haven't subscribed to ChessBase India, please do so.